All right, so I'm here with Akio Evans. Akio or Akio?
Akio.
All right, great. And this is really just, I want to get a chance, and I want everyone to get a chance to learn a little bit more about you. You're a Baltimore native. Um, you've been in the city, and you told me you've done some other traveling outside of the city, and you made some moves in the fashion industry, in the film industry, and you got some connections. So really just want to have a conversation. So I'm gonna start off with asking you a little bit about your childhood, where you grew up. You're from over west, you're from over east. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, I mean, originally from over East Baltimore, to be exact. I predominantly moved all the way around East Baltimore. I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
I started off with 1614 North Bond Street. Then from there, me and my family were born and raised with two other siblings, my twin sister and my older sister.
Wow, you have a twin.
Got a twin.
Identical or
Fraternal.
fraternal? Okay.
Like the Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger. She like
Okay.
6'4" and I'm this height.
Really?
Yeah. She graduated from St. Francis and was also Gatorade Maryland Player of the Year. She played for Wake Forest, the whole nine, so she took everything from me, right? So my mother, she raised us all single parent home or whatever, and I had a few stepfathers that came in and out, but it was just all four of us mainly. So from there we moved to Old York Road, after Old York Road, Bel Air Road, if you're familiar with that area, Northeast Baltimore, and down 419 East Lafayette, which they call now Station North.
Yeah.
So man, grew up all the way around East Baltimore, man, and that was definitely a different time than it is now.
I was gonna say, how does it feel for where you grew up to be now, Station North? How does that feel?
Man, it's I take it. It's bittersweet. It's a little bittersweet, man. Because now it's like, okay, you have a lot of people who are coming from all different types of backgrounds, which is cool. Granted, I still kind of have that, like, wow, why wasn't this like this when I was coming up around there, where you had a lot of fiends that not fiends, I don't like to say that, but you had a lot of people who were going through the sickness of addiction. And now you see less of that. You still see a little bit of it, you know what I mean? But, Tyrone's Chicken is right around the corner from where I used to live at. And to know that my friend Bobby, every time I see it, even still to this day, his body was found inside that spot, even after Tyrone's Chicken was actually closed, for some time. He was murdered. God rest his soul. But to see that every time, it's like, wow, all these memories that I have.
Yeah.
And I always revisit them every time I go in that area. So it's just wild.
Where did you go to middle school, high school?
Middle school, I went to elementary at Dr. Bernard Harris. That's right around the corner from Bond Street. And from there I went to Lombard Middle School. And like, I've gotten evicted a lot when I was younger. So, that caused me and my mother and my siblings to actually, like I said, go each and every spot in Baltimore. So, I went to Lombard Middle, and then from Lombard Middle, we went to, me and my twin sister, we went to Winston Middle. Okay. And then the last middle school we went to was Northeast Middle, and we kind of graduated from there. And then was Northern High School. I could have went to the Baltimore City School of Arts, but the monologue that I had to study to go to that school, it wasn't the monologue that they gave you by default. And, I guess the duration of it is supposed to last from, I don't know, more than 30 seconds. The monologue I had ended in 12 to 10. And it was Raisin in the Sun. Yeah. And they was impressed, but they was like, hey, you know what, you can still shadow. And I was a teenager at the time, and I started to look at other kids that were different from me. And I'm like, wow, man, they're like, some was doing splits. Yeah. Some was taking that leg, doing like that. I'm like, I'm not. But I'm like, wow, my mom was like, did you like it? I was like, yeah, I liked it. But the thing of it is, I didn't feel like I belonged, so, because when I leave the Baltimore School of the Arts, I'm coming straight to my community that didn't have anybody that represented that at all. And I had an opportunity to go audition again.
Oh wow.
And I just didn't do it because I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go to my older sister's school, which was Northern. And you know, I should have went to Baltimore School of the Arts because my sister was only there for 1 year and she graduated, my older sister. So I was there alone,
Yeah.
and I felt isolated. But yeah, I found my way.
I was gonna say, did you find a group of friends, one friend, somebody that kind of helped you create your own place, create your own home?
I definitely did. I found my best friend, Jasmine Johnson, who I found later in life was my cousin. You know,
That's Baltimore for you.
Yeah, man, it's just so small, man. And he was one of my best friends that I remember the first day of school. We was in the library trying to figure out which class we was going to, and it just so happened that him and I were in each and every class, and we established a great friendship that everybody who actually was around us said, y'all been here before. Y'all like kindred spirits.
Yeah.
And that had followed from when he had left to go to Phoenix, Arizona for school, and I kind of stayed back. So that whole story in itself was amazing because, you know, he did come back to visit me. And, you know, as a result of that, I was going through some legal situations that I had to overcome. But even when I was in high school, Jazz, he will come to school in fly gear and like jerseys and baseball jerseys and stuff of that nature. And one time he came to school with these jeans that had the baseball logos
I remember those
on it.
all
right?
the teams.
But the thing of it is, it wasn't out then. So this was like in 2001.
Really?
I mean, 1999.
Yeah.
1999 when I was in the ninth grade, 2010. I mean, sorry, 1999. I'm old here. I'm old. 1999, year 2000. And he would come to school with these baseball teams that I later learned that somebody had actually went to Joann's Fabric to cut the baseball logos, but it was on a baseball. So the logo was overlapping the baseball. All they did was cut the baseballs out. They would, so yo, that's dope. I said, well, where you get that from? He said, oh, guy BJ, he made him. BJ, he played for Northern on a football team.
Okay.
So I was like, yo, I said, I gotta get in contact with him because I have some NBA sheets that I would like for him to actually do.
Yeah.
He's like, NBA? He's like, yo, nah, that'll be dope. I said, okay, cool. So I got in touch with BJ. BJ, he, you know, used I gave him maybe two sheets. And how many teams is on the NBA that you can think about?
40 something teams. Yeah.
Man, I gave him my sheets, man. He came back with like 5 or 8 teams. And I'm like, bro, like I gave you the sheets, you're supposed to deck me out. And when he got them back, people was like, oh man, yo, they hard, yo.
Yeah.
But I was not pleased.
Yeah.
And that's what actually started me designing my own clothes. So when I seen that he didn't make it the way I seen it in my mind, I asked Jazz, I said, yo, how you made these? He said, all he did was use a glue gun and some puffy paint.
Yep.
I said, oh, for real? I said, all right, bet. So it was one of those, you know, weekend projects that I was in the lab masterminding how to create it. And, you know, I cut up, at this time, I ran out of the sheets, so I just had the comforters.
Okay.
And my mother, she was upset because she spent mad money on these sheets. So she's
like,
cutting them up, right? But I had a comforter and I had the pillowcases left. So as I'm cutting them up and I put them on my jeans, I come to school the next day. And, you know, it's two things people see. They see you during breakfast and they see you during lunch. So breakfast time, oh my goodness, I walked in there.
Was you early for breakfast?
I was. Walked in there with the decked out NBA patch jeans, and I owned it at that point because I didn't want to say that, you know, I didn't want to give them credit for making it. So I was like, you know, I made this, and people was like, oh man, they nice, oh man, yo, they dope. And that's when I seen that supply and demand was something serious. So I made about 2 or 3 more pieces of that, and I did the same thing that BJ did because I understood, okay, you need to prioritize your material because it's limited. So that's why he probably didn't give me all of what I wanted on it. So then I said, okay, bet. But eventually I started to run out. And I was like, how am I going to recreate? It was no more sheets like to actually for me to make and render the product. So I don't know what had struck in my mind, but I said, yo, if I go to the dollar store and buy, at the time they were selling like t-shirts, they would just be $1. If I buy like a couple of those, and I was crazy enough to think that if I cut up the t-shirts and I take it the hot glue gun that I was using to put it on the jeans. If I hot glue gun each and every corner, and I said, if this image at the time I knew pixelations before, Google had showed you what pixelations of the images was. I said, if this picture comes out, I said, that's all I need, and I'm in business. And sure enough, now the printer took a few series. Sometimes it would jam stuff, sometimes it didn't, and my mom was like, what are you doing in my printer, right? Everything was just crazy, right? So, but when it came out, I was like, yes. So not only did I make the NBA patch setup, but I also did the throwbacks and stuff like that. Stuff that at the time nobody was doing. And 2001, because I graduated in 2002. So in 2001, this is after my twin sister, she was playing for AAU. She played for Hawaii. She had pictures of Lil Jon. So she had the skirt. So when people were seeing her with the skirt, she's in New York. She's going to this place. She took pictures with Lisa Leslie, all this stuff. Then I see Cameron in the video in 2001 with the NBA jacket. I'm like, yo, everybody called me like, yo, on the house phone at the time. They're like, yo, that's your idea. Oh my goodness, man. Because I would go to Total Sports too. I would go to Total Sports and I would display that. So yeah, man, it's just, that's just beginning.
So that's a lot there. So we'll stick with that. So what is the feeling of, as a creative, because as we can see, you are creative. What does that feel like, seeing your idea that you had when you were young? That was just kind of a spur of the moment, like, oh man, it'll be dope to have NBA teams on my jeans or on my jacket, or like you said, on your sister's skirt when she was going around. How did it feel, you creating that, doing it in your own circle, and then seeing that idea somewhere on a Cameron video? And at that time, Cameron and Dipset were on a trajectory to be out of here. One of the biggest hip hop groups ever. And that was an iconic look, because I remember I bought jeans with the NBA teams, patches on them. I mean, to this day, I got like a Phoenix Sun bubble jacket, like the classic starter, orange and purple ones with and I had to buy my own logo and hot glue it on there. And then I had to figure out, you can't just hot glue it straight on there, the material. So not a lot of people even have the dedication to stick with it and be like the trial and error. Like me, myself, I don't have the dedication for the hands-on necessarily. My dedication might be more other stuff. But for you, you said you went into that lab and you created. So the idea you created, now you see it on TV, on music videos. What was that feeling? Was it a good feeling? Was it like bittersweet? Was it mixed? Was you angry? You could be honest.
At the time I was still a teenager, so I knew I had something special because my mother, she was always telling me every time I go to the mall, she said, Keo, I wouldn't wear that. Mm-hmm. Like, she told me that way before we even discovered that was on the video. She said, Keo, she said, a real magician never reveals his secrets. And if you go to these sports stores, and I was like, but I got to showcase it somewhere. I got to show it. And she was like, all right, whatever, do you. So I felt like, and then when it happened, she was the very first person that said, see, I told you. I said, but Ma, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to do in a situation like that.
Yeah, ironically enough, I had a similar situation in which, I make music. I've been making music for a long time. And I used to just put all my music out there, everything, on SoundCloud, YouTube, Facebook, just whatever. And I never forget, I was listening to the radio one time, and my mother told me about this song. She was like, I heard this song, and it sounds just like a song you wrote. Like 5 years ago, I wrote this song in like, I don't even know, 2006. And it's by a large band that I won't name, but they're a big band. Like, they're a big deal, like international tours, all of that. And you know how music is similar to art. People can always say, oh, I had that idea too. I had that idea separate. And it's hard to kind of prove who originated the idea. And a part of me as a creative says it doesn't matter. But then a part of me as a businessman knows that people are profiting off of the things that we create in our communities. And that brings us to a larger point. To finish the point, I had a similar situation. I put that song out. My mother hit me up, and I had a conundrum, and I was just like, I don't know what to do. Like, I want to put out music because I want people to hear it. I don't care. I just want to put it out there. But then I don't want to put it out there and then somebody flip it, change a couple little notes, or like in your case, maybe switch the team and maybe make it a different hockey teams, or you don't know what. And then you find yourself in a predicament, and then you look like the one that's biting. Yeah, exactly. Like, you look like, yo, Like, did you really come up with that?
And you know, I wish I was. We talked about earlier off camera about the importance of documenting, and I just wish that I documented that at that time because that would have sealed the deal. Because a lot of things in fashion, I mean, a lot of trends in fashion, I see happening all over again. Like even in 2003. Now I graduated in 2002. When I first started making anything, it was in 2001. 2002, like I went to a girl's prom. I would take a Gucci bucket hat at the time, and a real one, and I would take the fabric apart, and I had these Stacey Adams that she wanted me to wear to the thing, and I would actually put the fabric inside the Stacey Adams strip, and it was clean. And you know, I also didn't. What was that? I didn't stop there. I also did it with these.
Don't Gucci have shoes that's kind of like that? Similar?
Now, let me tell you, I'm about to get somewhere. I'm about to get somewhere.
Okay.
DSW in Towson, they had like hospital shoes at the time, and you know, grandmas or aunts that went to church, they would wear these specific shoes. Me at the time in 2003, I thought they were dope.
Really?
So 2002, 2003. So you know what I did? So they had the straps on there. So my mother, she had this Burberry scarf, and at the time, you know, like I'm a visionary. I don't know the consequences and repercussions of things until after the fact, right? Yeah. So I was another Saturday. I'm in the house. I'm like, oh wow, look, that scarf would be so mean on these joints that I stole. Keep in mind, I stole the
relocated,
shoes, right? I relocated. You know, so I had this blank canvas of these hospital shoes, and I said, wow, I'm gonna put the Burberry fabric onto the straps and put it inside the way these Air Forces is. But in order for me to actually, in order for me to actually put it inside the toe cap, it took a lot of different, like it was different. Now I'm used to it, but so I did that, and my mother got off of work. I was like, Mom, look at this, look at these shoes. I had the shoes because she had a long scarf. It was like a poncho. So I had the shoes, and I had at the time, Low Flip song was out called Game Over. So I took, also had a Burberry bucket. I took the circle of the bucket, and I made it into a Pac-Man. So I also took the sides and I made it into the ghost. So it was like zigzag, and I put that on a jean joint. So man, people really thought that it was real. Pork chop. Everybody was like, "Wow, yo, that's dope." And the whole time it was something that I made, something that I took like ownership of. And my mother came home. She's like, she was like, my skull, and I didn't realize. I was like, oh snap. She was upset, man. But anyway, like you said, with the Gucci and the Burberry, and things that you don't notice until years later, like wow, you know, because everybody's using you at the time, so they're not sharing with you your value if you don't know your value.
And it's, you know, it's a similar conversation we had a couple of weeks ago because we've been chatting, and we're talking about how what do they call it now? Intellectual property. How much that's worth, how powerful that is. And I think we really don't even know that now. I think everybody's talking about it, but people don't know how powerful these ideas are, because whether it's through the ether and somebody just stumbles across it, or if somebody deliberately goes to a certain neighborhood or goes to a certain culture and tries to co-opt and tries to flip it and then not give credit to where credit's due. Because in art, you always going to have influences from other people. You always going to have that. So there's no idea that's really original. But the problem, I think, in my opinion, comes in when somebody goes into a certain situation knowing that they don't have no ideas themselves, looking for inspiration. You know, that's like me going to, you know, a Latin club, listening for something so I can hear it, and then I now put it in a song and give that artist no credit or no whatever. So it's like, that's super important for us as creatives to remember, because we can get so wrapped up into the actual, bro. I done did so much stuff for free that went on to make money that my name was no longer attached to, because I didn't have the knowledge to know, okay, boom, like I need to have a contract, or I need to do this, or I need to do that, or who's getting the credit for this? And these are the type of things that you would think you would learn in college or in high school. And I was actually going to ask you about, so at Northern, did you have any art classes that you took that was able to, because, you know, me and you talk about how the education piece is so important. And I know you teach classes on Monday. So did you have any?
I had technology, and I had media. Media was more so that we would create commercials and
Okay.
stuff like that. But not
No,
really any no arts,
yeah,
no
no
arts.
arts like that.
But the media is funny because now I also film, so that with the commercials and me walking around with a camera, I already had to implement that type of I don't the drive of wanting to create stories and technology. We'll get to that in a minute,
Yeah.
but with PowerPoint, that allowed me to learn how to manipulate images through Paint.
Yeah.
Paint. It wasn't even Photoshop. It was
Yeah.
Paint around
And
that
that's
time.
Microsoft Paint.
You know, so that was what I was using back in the day. So yeah.
So along those same lines, you briefly touched about how you relocated some shoes from an unnamed location, and and I think we've all I could say that a lot of us have done the same thing, and I think that that's a narrative that is confused a lot by the media about poor neighborhoods. Like you see people looting on TV and breaking into stuff, and so it's like I always think about because I'm 26, I'm 26. So when I was younger, um, and it's crazy. So like even when I was younger, and that's not that long ago, that's 10 years ago. I'm 16, 17. There were rec centers all over the place for people to go in, and you could just do arts and crafts. I remember at the movie theaters, they had like an arts and craft place for kids while your mother was in an R-rated movie. You could be on the outside drawing and stuff like that. And then now as I'm older, I'm looking around and I'm just like, that doesn't really exist. So for a kid like you or for a kid like me, who's in that neighborhood, who has that urge to create, that urge to do more, but doesn't have the resources, you used what you had, literally what you had around you, which was your mother's scarf. You know what I mean? Like you used whatever it was that you could find. And that's a true creative. That's not saying like, oh, I ain't gonna create because I don't have fabric from Italy or whatever. You didn't need fabric from Italy to make something that was hot. And that's to me the difference. So, what do you think is some of the ways that, like, what are some of the things that you think we could do to create some way for kids who have that same passion like you, who don't want to go to Baltimore School for the Arts, but who just want a place where they can do trial and error on designing shoes? Like I don't know, we go to Payless and get a bunch of those old people shoes, like you were saying, because I remember those shoes. Like people wasn't really wearing those, even the New Balances. Now I remember when I used to have to wear I didn't have to wear New Balances, but somebody who shall not be named was like, you should wear New Balances. They're good for your feet or what have you. I was like, I don't want new Dookie New Balances, like, because they was bulky in the front, bulky at the back. And everybody made fun of me. Like, I wanted Nikes, I wanted Adidas or what have you. Not realizing New Balances was back then it was $150, $200 for dad shoes. And then now to see popular culture 10 years later make dad shoes hot to where every shoe is bulky. Every shoe looks like them old New Balances.
Absolutely. Even the shoes I was just talking about with the straps with the hospital shoes. When you look at Balenciaga and Prada and all these other brands now, luxury brands, they have the strap. They didn't have any straps back in the day, like 3 straps, but it's also when I was in Phoenix, it's when to go back a little bit about how ideas are being taken. I've witnessed that in so many facets. It's ridiculous, because even before I had left Baltimore to go to, live over the West Coast, it was only an embroidery shop in Mount Darman. That's the only customized outlet that you can have.
Talking about the dude that used to make the shirts.
Yeah. In 2002, 2003, it was no type of ways where people were making like any type of heat press t-shirts.
Nope.
And if it was like that in Baltimore, you can imagine what Phoenix was. Phoenix was way behind. So when I was in Phoenix, Arizona, some instances, I had to be on the majority, I was out there on my own.
Yeah.
And I seen fashion where people would have had Rags. It was a store called Rags. They seen my stuff because I used to sell stuff in Phoenix, Arizona Mall, and they used to kick me out to the point where I said, okay, y'all kicking me out, but I didn't necessarily have left. I went back with my duffel bag. I just didn't pull out my shirts. I would go inside bathrooms and like, oh, you want? So it got to the point then I started not just selling it to people who would come like customers because they would rat on me. I would go to store managers because they customers too.
Yeah.
And this one store manager, his name was Fernando. Thank God for him. I showed him like, I don't know, it was like a Biggie or it was like popular shirts I was selling at the time was Friday t-shirts. And this is in 2004, 2005. Yeah. Friday movie t-shirts, Dickie shirts that had the movie scenes all over. Yeah. And he's like, you made that? I was like, yeah. He said, how would you like to just sell your shirts at that clearance rack right there? I said, yeah, sure, why not? And, you know, so I had all my shirts hung on the clearance rack. Customers would come in and they would go straight to the cash register, whip my item and be like, yeah, I want this. And be like, they would send him right back over to me, like, he made that. And I would sell the Dickie shirts for like $65 to $100 a pop. And they never seen anything like that. I come back to Baltimore, that's when people started being innovative and you started seeing somewhat of the recipes t-shirts with the prints on it and stuff like that. And people will always ask me, oh man, so how many colors you use for that, what do you call it? The silk screen. I was like 5. I'm making up stuff. But it was really heat press. It wasn't nothing else. So yeah, but now upstairs when they got whiff of this and when I was in Phoenix, a store named Rags, they didn't have anything. Like it was their stuff was dry. Yeah. And I would make Chucky and I would put Chucky on my Air Force Ones and I put on shirts as well. Girls was like this girl. One time, this guy he bought one of my shirts, and this girl literally screamed when she seen the Chucky shirt because nobody. You gotta think of it. In 2005, you rarely seen the actual. It wasn't there. So then Rags seen that, and the store Rags, and they probably. I'm sure they're not even in business anymore. And they took it. They took that, and but when they made the shirts, it was pixelated. When they blew it up, so I'm like you tried, but.
And that's, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to kind of harp on that. Is like, that is one of the things that we have to realize as creatives is like, people are going to duplicate your stuff, but it don't have that sauce in it. Because Rags didn't go through all the different iterations, all the nights that she was trying to make it perfect, line it up. So when somebody looked at that finished product, they don't know that it's 300 hours of work behind it. And Rags tried to do that
in 20 minutes.
And you just looking at them and you keep doing what you're doing, and that's powerful, man.
But what you were saying about the kids having an outlet, you know, I feel like as a creative like myself and others who are wherever you are, whether it be in the city or it could be in New York or and abroad, I feel like with the recreate, like you said, you asked me, did Northern had any art classes, and I told you no. Recreational centers, they should have a way where they bring creatives in that's in the community, because they should understand that creatives like you and I can add value to to their organizations and possibly have a workshop for the kids because the kids are coming to the rec if the recs are open. They're coming to the rec to have an outlet. Yep. Some don't know how to, like me, didn't know how to play basketball.
Don't necessarily want to. So you might want to go to the lab, or you might want to. Yeah.
And if it's an outlet for them to be able to, I don't know, like you said, get some, it doesn't cost nothing to go to the Payless and get some pair of shoes just to doodle on them or whatever, but it should be that.
And I had you can take this, but I had an idea as you was talking. It would be dope because the school I went to was a immersive learning school. Okay. So it was more about like doing instead of just like learning about it. So instead of you looking at a picture of a bumblebee, like you had like beekeeping classes and stuff like that. Like I went to a really, while I was going there, that school was doing a lot of edgy programming, like a lot of stuff that it was like, if you were a parent, you might be wondering like, what is my kid doing? But really you just get real life exposure on what it could be. And I was just thinking as you was talking, like how dope would it be for a kid to go to a class with you, see what you've done, learn some basic techniques, design their own shoe, and then we partner with Mondawmin, and they try to hustle that shoe in Mondawmin to customers.
And then the proceeds can possibly go to the family.
Go to the family or go to the actual program. Yeah. Like that would be dope because a mall like Mondawmin has been in our community forever, and that's really the only mall we have.
It goes back to entrepreneurship, and I now I'm gonna say this because I know this is an idea I had in mind, but I'm gonna say this on camera because by the time this comes out, I want to put action behind my idea, my vision. But you think of even like the Squeegee Boys, for example, right? I had an idea just last week that popped in my head. I don't know why, but it was random, and I was like, what if, someone like myself was to instead of, what if someone was like myself was to make the squeegee boys some shirts who are on those specific blocks, and the shirts that they have, because they always, if you don't get a squeegee for the females, they always spray like a heart, and the heart is like a splash. And what if that's like a splash and it has squeegee boys on there? So when people look at them, they're not looking at them as a person that is just trying to be a nuisance. They're looking at them as being an entrepreneur that's growing their business. So if I make them a few shirts going to one block, to the next block, to the next block, and they are looked at as entrepreneurs, which they are, then maybe something can come out of that. Because when I used to work at Labor Ready, I used to get paid. This was one of my stuff, my record that I had. I wasn't able to get a job. And in that situation, it forced me to work at jobs where I was getting paid $20 for 8 hours, working with people from all walks of life. And the managers at those jobs treated the workers like crap, man. And I mean, these were hard labor jobs where you had to bang in concrete, you had to do all these other things, and you had to wake up 3 o'clock in the morning just to be in front of the line, so that way you can get your $10 to $20 for the 8 hours a day. And I had paid my price from just even going through that, because at that time, I didn't, before I started changing my life and turning my life around, I didn't see the value of being what do you call a person that contributes to society, a hard worker. I didn't see the value in it, because my mentality was taking it. And then when I had to switch it, it just changed. So I know that at least what I can say from the Squeegee Boys, at least they are doing something that can put money in their pockets the right way. Now, what they do outside of that hustle, I don't know. But if that's I think we need to, how they say you got to grab the kids while you can. If we can grab them right then and there and show them this way, like instead of Labor Ready, they're going to a spot called, instead of being Labor Ready, what if it was another spots that they can go to that had, like, I don't know, Squeegees Are Us. And they assign kids out to go to, and they have, I think the start of it can be the shirts, so to speak. So
and it's amazing. We've been having this conversation, and it seems like what they call it, like destiny or synchronicity or whatever you call it when the things align. Because I was in a car, can't remember who I was with. I was in a car like a week ago, and I was thinking like, man, these squeegee boys, they out here 8 hours a day. And we know, as, I'm gonna just be blunt, as Black people, we know that when we put on something, it's different. Like when we put it on, it's a different sauce. It's just different. Like you can have two people next to each other with the same outfit, the same exact outfit. One is a Black person, one is whoever else. I don't care, you can insert whoever. But it's a different sauce. For some reason, when it comes to fashion, when we put stuff on, especially in the quote unquote street fashion or whatever you want to call it, streetwear, whatever people call it now, that's the luxury brand for a reason, because it's like really the only thing that has value is what people put value on. A shirt is a piece of cloth at the end of the day. I can rip up a shirt and use it to wipe up a drink, wipe up some juice off the floor, or I can use it to put on a model and sell it for $1,000, $3,000, $4,000. At the end of the day, it's the same shirt. So when I'm looking at the Squeegee Boys, I'm like, instead of them having the Gucci belts on and Fendi belts or whatever, and maybe some Balenciaga shoes or whatever that they saved up, or however they got it, hustled it, whatever, what if they had local businesses on their shirts? That's a whole nother, but you could do both. Like you could have it to where, okay, if you're a local business, maybe you sponsor a Squeegee Boy. At the end of the day, maybe you make sure that he's making at least $3 an hour for the day. And you have a couple, boom, you got, you might have minor key, you might have whatever, and you might even make it to where it's fly, so that somebody like you can make the logo dope, so that they would want to wear it. Because you know how we are. We don't care how much money we get it. If it don't if it don't look a certain way, I'm not wearing it. So it's like, how do we leverage all this creative energy that we have, all this hustler spirit that we have, in a way that is a circle that makes money for itself, so that they out there providing a service, not only through their own hustle, but maybe they just have a card that tells people, okay, this is what's happening in Baltimore today. You know, these are the movie that's out at Landmark because we know they down on President.
And tourists are passing them each and every time, so that's a great opportunity for them to be able to be the guys that do the footwork and kind of push
It's like
whatever.
you would think in America with all this entrepreneur that somebody would have looked at me like, oh, that's 8 hours of free commercial free program, commercial free programming.
I don't know. Somewhere down the line, I mean, I'm not gonna say the squeegee thing started here because we seen it in Belly. We seen DMX with the.
I seen it in Mexico.
You seen it in?
Wow. I went on a cruise a long time ago.
Yeah.
Man, and they way more aggressive. Squeegee Boys is nice. Because I seen it in Mexico when I was there. I was there for like 2 days or something on a cruise. And then I was in India. And in India, I was blessed enough to go there. And we was right outside the Taj Mahal. And right outside the Taj Mahal, the tourist guy told us that it's the poorest city, one of the poorest, if not the poorest cities in India that's right outside the Taj Mahal. So you in the Taj Mahal, this beautiful, it's kind of like DC, right? You in this beautiful ivory palace that this king built for his wife or whatever. And it's like the intricate you being an artist, like talking about detail, it's like nano detail, like pixels before there was pixels. And then you walk outside and a lady with her baby literally was following me around because as unprivileged as I thought I grew up or whatever, not having a lot of things that I saw people had. When I went to India, I had a couple $100 in US dollars. There was a couple thousand over there. And I'm like an idiot and I'm ignorant. I pulled out that cash. Once I pulled it out, people swarmed me. When I say swarmed me, followed me down like 30 blocks. A woman with her baby. Then one point she put her baby down and was on me and like, and trying to just didn't speak the same language, but I knew what time it was. And I think I might end up giving her a couple dollars or buying some water or something like that. But it's crazy because, like you said, we know we didn't start it, but we have the opportunity to potentially innovate that. Like imagine, call me whatever you want to call me, but imagine a world in which everybody on the streets aren't just hustling, tampons, toilet paper, toothpaste, but they got a shirt on. That's a company. That's Hulu. That's Disney. Disney's paying for people.
Like you said, the people take pride in what they wear, and with the fashion, and not even just with fashion, even with you step out the house and you knowing that you're going out there to give people service, because that's what you're doing with the purpose. Mm-hmm. You're not just there outside, and then like. It's about respecting the individual. And then other people, they'll look at them like, okay, but because I've been that kid. I've been that kid that had to like do the things I didn't want to do in order to get what I wanted. Yeah. And I still went about it a different way. It was like I was taking things and hard times in Phoenix, Arizona, when I was out there being homeless. That resulted from my legal situations here and being out there, on my own. Coming across hard times. It was in 2005, I remember the city of Phoenix, they had water supply that was cut off, and everybody had to, it was crazy. It was similar to like what Fleck is going through.
It's hot out there.
And it's hot out there, right? Yeah. So, it was, I think it happened for about 2 or 3 weeks, and everybody had to get gallons of waters in order to fill up their tub. But me, coming from where I come from, I lived that in my younger days on Bond Street, where my mother, she raised all 3 of us on our own, and we didn't have our father to be in our lives, for whatever reason. That the difference is that most black families, most of our family, we all succumb to that, and it's nothing we can really do about it. But that's just what it is, especially poor families, and. We grew up poor, and it was a time where, she couldn't pay the rent anymore. So going back to what I was about to talk about in Phoenix with the water being cut off, when we couldn't pay the rent anymore, my landlord said, like, okay, you know what? Our landlord said, I'm going to cut y'all water off because, y'all going to pay me now. And, the water was shut off to an extent that when we ran it a little bit, it would run, but then it turned black. Mm-hmm. And, I just remember... My mother always used to say, hey, you know what? Whatever happens in this house, don't say anything. The lights was off. Water was off for, I'm going to say, like 6 or 7 months off and on within that period because, you know, we would get somebody that knew how to go up there, to give them $20. And $20 was a lot of money back in the day. You either get a kerosene lamp or you get the $20 you pay the person. But you might be risking that because that person that you're hiring to fix your light to go up on that pole, he's normally going to use that money to get drugs, and he might run off with your money. And that 9 times out of 10, sometimes that happens, you know, and he might not be an expert. Just know how to you know, it real quick. And then it shuts back off. So eventually we ran out. My mother ran out of our resources, whereas though we just was like, you know, Saturday mornings we would just kind of like duck, and you know, so it's funny, right? So anyway, I can laugh at it now. So Saturday morning, man, I'm ripping and running, doing my thing around the block, and it was hot outside, so the water, the fire hydrant was open.
Beautiful thing.
And I was looking at it as an opportunity to drink water because I was thirsty. But the way I was doing it was a Mystic bottle. Mystic bottles back in the day, they were glass. They weren't plastic or anything like
plastic
that. I don't know where they are now, if they even still exist.
They do.
Right? Okay, but it was glass, right? So I would take the Mystic bottle, and I was acting like my favorite movie was called The Mask with Jim Carrey. Yeah. So I would do things animated, like to actually act like I'm doing something, but I'm hoping that a parent or somebody would say, "Hey, don't do that." So I'm out there taking the water and I'm like letting it drip down, hoping that somebody goes, because I was this close about to drink it, like literally it's flowing from the gutter all the way down. I'm about to drink it. And somebody's like, "Ew, if you drink that water, Keo, you're gonna be slow." Yeah. So I immediately like spit whatever had came out of my mouth out. And then I was exhausted, so I sat down near the steps in the shade, and the kids started to smell me. And this is around the same time that, you know, as a young boy, your hygiene is starting to show itself. So I started smelling like onions, and I didn't know what was going on. The kids like, "Ew, you smell like Mama Sue's there around the corner." So then they was like, "Why?" And my sisters, they tried to take up on me, but they couldn't. They was like, "Why your brother stink?" And I ran in the house. I said, "I water black." Ran in the house and went upstairs, and I was afraid because I thought my mother was gonna, you know, beat my ass, beat my tail, but she didn't. And moments later, the neighbors knocked on the door. It reminded me of you ever see the movie called The Brewster's Place with, I think it's called The Brewster's Place with Oprah Winfrey. It's an old movie, but it was at the end of the movie where the whole community, they chipped in and they took the bricks down because it was like, I'm telling my age here. But it reminded me of a scene in the movie, the scene of the TV series of that nature, and all I remember was the neighborhood that all came to pitch in to offer me, my mother, and my sister's help. And they was like, "Gloria, why you got them kids in there with no water, no gas, and electric?" And she started crying. And then, you know, they had took a water hose from Kmart, had it running through my neighbor, Miss Margaret. Miss Margaret, she was nosy. Like, she always would talk about it, but then she didn't. She just was like, everybody felt so bad that they pitched in. So the water was running through our house. We had the extension cord running through our house for our power. We was only able to have one room that was powered. And to lighten the mood, my mother would, you know, we in the dark sometimes, we'll be sleeping all in the same room, and she'll take a water bottle that, you know, she would do her hair or spray our plants, and she would spray as we had water gun fights, where as though she would plant like the water stuff. Water bottles all throughout the house so that we could spray each other to have some fun because it was hot. We still had to, even though we had one cord operating through the TV or something like that, we still had to stay cool. And, you know, she did that good because while us fighting and actually fighting, that really made us exhausted because you can't really sleep in that heat. And by us being cool, that's good. I mean, it was middle of the night. We're like, why is she doing that middle of the night? We thought it was fun, but it was mainly for us to sleep well. And that got us through the nights. And then after that, when it started getting cold, you know, that was brutal. But going back into my upbringing and being in Phoenix, and I was homeless, and it was like the circumstances that I know some of these young kids are going through. When I was 17, 18, 19, being homeless out there in Arizona, you start to think that these things are supposed to be for you, especially if you grow up in those communities with poverty, you know what I mean? So you start to think like, oh, okay, Phoenix, Arizona, got no water. I came from that. So it's like, you know, those things stay with you. And man, I just was remembering the harsh times of that and being caught in a sandstorm in Arizona, where as though you literally had to walk around with a gallon of water. And being when I was homeless, I ain't had no shelter to go a place. It's just all these circumstances I know with going back to what I'm trying to talk about. My point is with the kids of how them not having an outlet. And some of them are out there, you know, because this is all I know. When I was in Phoenix, it was on 120-degree weather, and these shirts that I make, sometimes it's like has like a Teflon. So when it's hot, like it stick to you, right? So imagine you're in 120-degree weather, you trying to be a walking billboard with your brand, and then you're out there and you just out there in the blistering heat, man, just trying to sell your merchandise. Or for me, when I started selling the drugs for this Crip dude, that's another story too. I'm out there, man, just out there, and people thinking, or when I started to get really homeless, I started to pinpoint everybody that would walk past me, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to ask him for money today because I asked him for money yesterday. I'm gonna go back and forth, and you start to, you start to look like you're desperate, but you're only doing these things because you don't know how you're gonna eat at night. You know.
The amazing thing, for me, even as you're telling me that story, I still see the hustler spirit. Like exactly. You know your market, you know your customer base. People who call that retargeting. That's the technical term. You talk to somebody one day, okay, boom, you let them chill, and then you talk to them a couple. That's what email blasts do. Absolutely. That's what they do. They say, hey, are you interested in buying this? And you don't respond. Hey, we noticed you haven't responded. That's marketing, bro. So it's amazing to me, throughout everything that you're saying, I'm hearing, like, you're telling me stories that are real stories and that are tough stories, but I'm hearing that skill that was in you, that hunger, that entrepreneurial spirit, no matter where you went, no matter what situation you were in, that was still there. And what you mentioned before about your mother and the water situation, that's something I feel like if you grew up in Baltimore City, everybody went through that. Even if I remember, so I lived with my grandmother for a lot back and forth, and I think my grandmother's house had like oil, so it was more expensive. So like sometimes stuff just wasn't on, or like I think like we had to, the water bill we couldn't afford. So even if we did have water, we used to have to turn the water on, put it in a bucket, and then use it to like take a bath or like go outside in the back. And then, like me and my cousins might, all shower, or when it rained, we used to go outside. Yeah, just go outside, and then or we just take a bath outside. You take a shampoo, but like the crazy thing, like as you were talking, I'm hearing that no matter what situation you were in, no matter what situation I was in, no matter what situation a lot of these Baltimore youth were in, usually our mothers or our grandmothers found a way to make light of it and give us what we needed. You was that spray. For me, it might have been a bath, or for me, it might have been, I don't know. Like I remember BG&E used to cut off our light randomly. Like we were just going through a really tough period, and my mother used to hide candles and stuff like that around the house. So it'd be like when the light go off, the first person to get to it, just like my mother always used to do. That's why as I'm listening to you, I'm like going, wow, like is there something that's in the spirit of people who grew up a certain way, that no matter what you go through, you're gonna find a way to keep your spirits high, because as your mother, she can't afford to give up. She got 3 kids, so she's like, I gotta do what I gotta do to keep them motivated, no matter what the situation is. So it's amazing to me to see that. So, like you said about the youth, I really believe that it's not that difficult to put a program, an initiative, or whatever in place. I think what we see, and you can speak to this in terms of what you've seen, being just a little bit older than me. A lot of people are doing different stuff all over the city. A lot of we got Baltimore. We got Under Armour in Baltimore, one of the biggest brands in the world. And I know they're doing a lot. I'm not saying they aren't doing a lot. They're doing a lot all over the city. But for some reason, there still is a bunch of kids that aren't being served, a bunch of kids that don't have food, a bunch of kids that don't have a safe place to be after school. So, I'm thinking like we got all these abandoned houses, like more abandoned houses, I feel like, than people actually live in the houses. We got people with no place to stay, but more abandoned houses than like, something, you know what I mean? Like
it's wild because you would think that we have one of the best hospitals in here. We have one. Under Armour is everywhere now, and Under Armour started actually here. And it's nothing to discredit the company, because I'm sure with any corporation or any business, it starts from humble beginnings. But if your brand is about putting fabric or putting clothing on athletes, the very first thing that comes with that is nutrition. So if you got nutrition a factor where Odell Beckham can't be Odell Beckham without the proper
Wow.
nutrition. But here it is, you having these athletes from our city who are growing up in food deserts,
And
who have in
hydration.
hydration. You know,
No
similar to
water,
my
no clean
similar to
water.
my. So it's like, okay, how like back in the day, they had this thing. Hopkins had this thing called the sports clinic, where they were forced. I guess now I'm thinking about it. People who were studying the medical field, they were forced to as an outreach program to the communities, and they were not going outdoor, and they would tell us to come out on a Saturday. You had 5 options: whether you could play tennis,
I remember
whether you
this.
could play any types of sports. Like I said, I didn't like sports, so what I would do, my mother would say, "Hey, you can't stay in here." You know, that was her thing her time to turn up. So I would just be roaming around the neighborhood, and so I do know that you just can't say, "Hey, okay, here's this program," and the kids might not go to it. It goes back to what you was talking about earlier about how we have to find the interest of the squeegee board. We have to find the interest of the newfound or the young designer or the filmmaker, and then find out how we can get a team of the creatives. Sometimes how we're having this conversation, because there's power in this combo that can actually bridge a gap with bringing the resources to those who are in need.
And what I know, especially just from listening to you, a lot of it is exposure, right? Like a lot of kids just don't even remember when I was younger, like there was a whole bunch of stuff I didn't think about. Like I remember I never met a white person until I was a certain age. And like it's funny, like, because I think there technically was a white lady who was like my cousin's godmother, but I didn't even think about white. Like she wasn't white in my brain. She was just Auntie Betty. She was just a lady. She was a lady that just was around, but I wasn't like, oh, here's this white lady that I know. So even something as large as we know as race, without exposure, I had no consciousness of it. So it's like, how do we expose kids to as much as we can? Throw a whole bunch of stuff at them, and then once they say, okay, boom, I really like this. Now we give them at least the space, the freedom, the basic necessities, whether it's paint and some blank canvases, some shoes or a piece of paper or whatever, because everybody's in this like technology phase. You know, I myself worked with a STEM like program, and everybody's kind of doing these technology things, and a lot of kids aren't into the technology. Like they just see it as games or videos or Facebook or whatever. And all I remember when I was younger and we had computers at school, all I was trying to do was figure out how to get on playing video games on a computer. I wasn't thinking about work or being constructive. So it's like, how do we um, find somewhere, some space, some sort of something for a kid to just be able to go in and be like, all right, well, if you want to here, okay, we got paint and shoes over here. If you want paint shoes, pick up a pair of shoes. Here's a pack of brushes. Here's some paint. Go to work.
I think that it comes with, just understanding where you are. Like, okay, for me, for example, when I go to teach the kids, I know that where I'm at, I am, of course, older, but I have to bring to them the value that they have in their smartphone. I have to bring to them my upbringing, my past. That hey, I like one of the lessons I had for my kids last year was I brought my old cameras in, and I had them give me their cell phones for two reasons. Because sometimes they stay on them, and another reason I wanted them to show them the value. So they're holding the cameras, the old cameras, the high-8 cameras in their hand, and they're acting like they're filming, and they're doing all this other stuff. And then I asked them the question. I said, okay. I said, now what I want you guys to do is put that on YouTube. Can y'all find a way to put that on YouTube? And they're like, what? How can they looking at the camera, they trying to do all this and all that other stuff. And I'm like, see, what I want you to understand, because first I asked them, like, why aren't y'all creating? Like, y'all watching people play video games, or y'all watching kids playing with toys, or y'all watching kids playing with slime. But what's stopping y'all from creating? They're like, well, we don't have, no, you have everything you have. Yeah. And then when I take their phones away, and I try to show them my upbringing was I didn't have this very powerful device that you had. Now I understand some people may look at this and be like, well, some kids don't have a smartphone. But every time you got a kid that's at a spot and they ask you, you know, hey, you got any
You got a charger,
games?
you got a
You
game
got
with your
games with
phone,
your joint?
yeah.
Then that's the opportunity that they. So it's really no excuse nowadays, you know, because somebody to know somebody, because we have smartphones. And smartphones are everywhere. So it is a luxury, but it is a necessity to have, but not a necessity. It's something that is powerful than what we can actually put emphasis on. Wisdom. You can post a video and you can add Google AdSense to your account.
Yeah.
And you can actually make passive income just from one popular video alone. And I taught some of my older kids how to do that, and they were actually taking videos off of World Star Hip Hop. I mean, they were going hard. They were actually taking videos from rap artists, reposted it on their channel. And one kid made $665 every 20th of the month for 3 months, and he went to Eastern Shore. Only because I couldn't do it because I'm a YouTube partner. But these are some of the things that I try to teach the kids that they can actually do. Here it is, you like that slime video. Okay, if you know that slime video has, I don't know, 2.3 million views, I mean, hey, why don't you create your own or copy that video, repost it on your channel as a fan-made channel and make money off of it.
And just maybe you talk about it.
And I,
you
know,
do a little,
so
because I know the commentary videos.
But it also, but it all depends on what they're interested in. So it goes back to what you were asking me. I would actually find what the kid is interested in, because you said most kids, they into technology and they only think about games or videos they can watch. I'm like, okay, well, what are you interested in? And then you find their interest and you say, okay, start from there. Because when you start from there, you learn by doing. You said it was one school that actually implemented they do, right? So you learn by doing. You learn by, is this what I want to do? And then you kind of like go about it. If they want to do entrepreneurship, if they want to do the squeegee thing, you're like, okay, what are you interested in? Okay, why don't you start a channel, a day in the life of a squeegee boy? Okay, now why don't you, while you're out here squeegeeing, explain your situation. There was a kid that I just seen the other day. She was like, she normally had the block on on North Avenue in Mount Royal, and she said that they took over. And just to think, and they were grown folks. Just to think, because first people was doing the water thing. People still doing the water thing, but now you got the grown folk. If they taking over the water thing, where is that leaving the kids if they don't have a recreational center to go to? They out here. So now you got these grown folk that took over her spot. And you know, me and my lady, we gave her $5, but I started to ask her about, you know, what shirt size she wear. But also with that being said, it's like, she's interested in that. What if she was documenting herself documenting? We talked about it earlier. Documenting. What she would have documented herself a day in the life of a squeegee girl, squeegee boy, or whatever the case may be, and that video goes viral because for some reason, every time squeegee boy is on social media, people if it's something that goes on. If she would have documented that, who's to say that, you know, something would have happened to establish a business or to establish a partnership with the Under Armours or the Meineke and stuff of that nature. So I feel like they just have to have exposure and innovative ideas.
And somebody like you, which is a mentor. You know I had a conversation a couple weeks back with another group of entrepreneurs and creatives and this, that, and third. And the thing that we all agreed on was that there was somebody in our life, whether that person was physically there, whether that was somebody we might have saw on TV, somebody that we emulated, somebody that we patterned ourselves after, whether it was an uncle, whether it was for some people it was a drug dealer, for some people it was somebody that gave them the inspiration that it's possible to do more. So I think like you're doing, like you're doing it, like you're teaching a class, and here they see you, oh wow, Mr. Evans, or I don't know what they call you, Mr. Evans.
Keys,
exactly.
Keys.
They say, oh wow, he's able to do this. Oh wow, he had a picture with this celebrity. He had a picture with like that. Like you're saying, you have to use how much kids are drawn by celebrity of stuff. As you leverage that, be like, yeah, I did this, but this is how I got to that point.
You know what? It's amazing you said that. I'm glad you mentioned that because the kids, yes, they do. That's the very first thing that they notice. They're like, oh, you did stuff for Lil Baby, you did stuff for Kevin Hart. And I can get the kids telling me or asking me. One of the kids that, and he's waiting for me to come there next Monday because I start teaching again next Monday. He was like, hey man, you know, why are you here? He's like, why are you? He asked me why am I there? I'm like, now, older folk who I kind of like, you know, interact with, if I'm working with on a job or whatever have you, in that work environment, I get why they saying it because sometimes they're coming from a negative point of view, or sometimes they're coming from a point of view where you should be somewhere But when the kid says that, I'm like, yo, wow. If the kid is asking me that, it's not too many. I told I ain't gonna mention his name, because But I told him, I said, hey man, I'm here because I want to be here, and I want to show you that you don't have to be nothing against being an athlete, nothing against being an entertainer or rapper, but you can be anybody. You can be an artist. And he's like, well, I don't know how to draw. And I tell kids all the time, I said, I don't either. I don't either. I know how to composite the image that I want and implement it on the shirt or implement it on the shoes. And it just so happened that each and every time that I kind of create, and I know I'm an artist, but if I can use that as what they feel like they lack.
To break down that barrier.
And you said use that celebrity factor. Like, okay, this is what I did with Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
And if I say that, I wasn't so confident in doing it, you can do it too. You can do better than me.
Exactly.
So with that being said, I feel like, the celebrity factor, it does kind of play a significant part in it. And it was recently where I stopped telling the kids that what I've done, because I didn't want to come off as I'm bragging but eventually they find out. Eventually they
follow you on Instagram,
and then they be like, oh, and then I can't stop it.
And I think if you can't run away from it, then definitely lean into it, because you can catch them in that moment where they're looking at you like, oh wow, and they don't look at a lot of teachers like that. A lot of times, I'm sure you remember, like, teachers seem so different than you are because they're older, so they usually had an age gap. Then they coming at you from a place of authority, so you already like, I want to hear what he got to say or what she got to say, and then you're expected to give them stuff all the time. Like, damn, like, I give you stuff, you trying to be older than me, blah blah. You don't even know what my life is like, or they might not even be from your type of neighborhood. I know my mother was telling me, like, back in the day, teachers used to live in the same neighborhoods as the students. So like your teacher would see you like on the same block and be like, oh, you should, like, that's a whole nother thing where I feel like that's a big change in the culture in terms of teachers not being from your neighborhood. So you don't have no.
So now you don't have teachers, you don't have a
police
officer. I knew it was coming. Yeah, it was coming. Wow.
So there's no place to relate to those places of authority or those people that want to help you. Maybe they don't just want to tell you what to do. Maybe they really are like, yo, like, because I've had run-ins with cops that have been positive, and I've had run-ins with cops that have been very negative. But I like to give people that balanced perspective to show them, like, hey, there's been instances that I've been in which a cop was like really looking out for me, like, yo, like, hey, make sure to do this because somebody else picked you up, they're gonna give you a hard time. Or make sure to do that, or make sure, hey, you was going, past the speed limit. If I was a hard ass, so to speak, then I could have gave you a $300 ticket. So it's like, and that automatically, that exposure, now I'm exposed to a person that I may have, or a figure that I may have viewed in a certain light. Now I have another image, like, oh wow, so it's possible for somebody to wear a badge and have a gun and not be out to get me. Maybe that doesn't happen all the time, but it is possible. So I know how important it is for kids to have that. Wow, so that's amazing. And I think that I definitely want to continue this conversation. And we talked about a lot today. Tell me a little bit about these shoes, actually, and where the idea kind of came from.
Sometimes, like, when I create shoes, I have like these sporadic ideas that I wake up sometimes I wake up 3 o'clock in the morning, and I kind of like be like, wow, that'd be dope. Looking at the ceiling, and I'm thinking I'm looking at the ceiling for 20 minutes, and literally 2 or 3 hours have passed. And, I created these from the movie called Us. It was released March of this year that passed. And I kind of was inspired to create like this original aesthetic that I used to do back in the day on T-shirts. Back in the day, I used to create these shirts that had the image of Candyman onto the shirt. But how I made the shirts back in the day was like what people would call like the Gothic type of style, which is now people love. So I made, back in the day, I put like glass inside the shirt, and I would sew each piece with, I would put it on top of the shirt, but it would be inside the shirt, but it would protect you so you won't get hurt and you won't get cut. But inside each glass, that's how this is displayed here with the images of the family, the Wilson's family right here. I would put bees on the glass pieces, so that way when the sun is projecting or it's reflecting the bees, when you walk on the sidewalk, you'll see the bees look like they're flying, right? And when you stare in the mirror, the Candyman words was written backwards. And I have a video of that on my Instagram. Video on Instagram, I have a 3 or 4X t-shirt, and I have that shirt on with a white hoodie underneath. So yeah, but anyway, I wanted to incorporate that on the shoes because I've been seeing some off-the-wall shoes lately, man. Just people applying mixed media, and I feel like
wear these.
Yeah, a lot of people said that. A lot of people said that. Yeah.
Like I've never seen. It's crazy. Shoes have been around for how long?
It has been.
Forever, right? Yeah. These sneakers came out what the 80s. 90s?
Yeah,
I don't know what Air Force
we brought Air Force Ones back actually.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there was a documentary about
it is. Mr. Shoe, Cinderella Shoe. We were the only city that was still wanting to wear the Air Force Ones in New York, Philly. They would come here just to get them. And then Charlie Rudo's and Mr. Shoe, they actually met Phil Knight and they said, hey, you know, they flew to Oregon and was like, hey, you know what? Baltimore still wanted them, West Baltimore, they still wanted them Air Force Ones. And he said, okay, you guys sound crazy, but okay, we'll remake them again. And that's why another reason why I find it very interesting that I unconsciously, I basically each and every Air Force One that I made for Dave Chappelle, Kevin Hart, Nick Cannon, Lil Baby, D. Davis, the list goes on and on. They have a piece of Baltimore with them. If they understand the deep history rooted, I'm giving them a piece of art from Baltimore, but I'm giving them a piece of history too because we had brung the Air Force Ones back. So, and that's more so you have an empty canvas here. But going back to what you was asking me earlier, with these shoes, it's basically 2 different personalities here. In the movie Us, you had the tethered and you had the regular family. And on the toe cap here, they had this specific image. I remember that. You know, on the what was it? The back of the window inside the car. And I applied the same type of concept here with the family. And I added the scissors. These are 2 Nike signs here. 2 swooshes. And I added both of the that as the scissors because the scissors is a very it's definitely something that I want to give away.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was inspired by that. Jordan Peele, he retweeted it.
Wow.
The actor, the little boy, I forgot his name. He wants a pair. I haven't been able to give him a pair just yet. But yeah, man, that's what inspired these shoes, man. One side is the family, the Wilsons, and the other side is the tethered. And oh my goodness, if you and little did I know about the Candyman thing. When we talk about synchronicity, while I'm in the movie theater watching this, I went to the black-owned movie theater that was here in Maryland, and I was talking to the owner, and he said, "You know Jordan Peele?" And I didn't even explain to him what I do. He only knew how to make shoes. He said, "You know Jordan Peele is making a new Candyman?" And I made these before I even seen the movie.
Wow!
I didn't even know that even in the movie. See, I'm not going. The House of Mirrors.
Yeah.
Is in the movie. I made this before the movie came out. I made this before I even seen the movie. And the glass even had a significant part inside the movie. You know, so it's really weird. Synchronicity, man. Synchronicity. Yeah.
Wow. Well, it was amazing talking to you. We talk all the time, but it was great getting a chance to dive in some of the things that I haven't necessarily heard before. And I hope that this was enlightening and informative for whoever watches this. I had a great time. I learned a lot, and we'll definitely come back and talk more. All right, bro. Absolutely.